Hello, Damien here from Cloud Technology Experts. Welcome back. In lesson 1 of Linux Fundamentals, I talked about why you should learn Linux today. Then in lesson 2, I walk you through how to install VirtualBox in your laptop. In today's lesson, which is lesson 3, I want you to get familiar with Ubuntu desktop. So I'm going to introduce you to Ubuntu to be able to navigate both the desktop and the terminal. To follow along, make sure you have Ubuntu installed as we did in the last video. So the overall objective here is to understand that you have an option when it comes to using an operating system in your laptop. If you have a Dell laptop, for example, you have the option to install Windows or to install Linux. And why not Linux? Because Linux is completely free and is one of the best operating systems out there, if not the best. So my aim is that as you continue to learn Linux, you come to a point in which you love it so much that you possibly want to switch from your current operating system, your laptop, to fully using Linux. Preferably Ubuntu, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so the objective here is to walk you through the Linux environment. We'll talk about the desktop, we'll talk about the terminal, we'll learn about how to use both of them together to achieve your productivity needs. So this is all going to be hands-on as usual. So let's walk over to the VirtualBox and start our hands-on session. Okay, so we're now in my VirtualBox, and I want us to do something first of all before we get started. This was the Ubuntu we installed earlier in the other video, and to continue working with Ubuntu, it's possible that you might screw things up, you might mess things up. But the good thing with VirtualBox or any hypervisor is that you can always make a backup of your VM so that if anything happens, you can restore it back. The way to do that here in VirtualBox is to clone the virtual machine. So let's click on this option here and clone. So I'm going to clone it. I'm just going to leave the defaults and say finish. So we have to wait for it to finish. It's basically making a copy of this Ubuntu virtual machine as a backup. Okay, so if anything happens, we can come and restore it and start using it with no issues. All right, very good. Now I have a clone of my virtual machine. This is like me buying a brand new server or laptop. So that is why virtualization is so cool. Okay, so now that we have a backup, let's fire this up. Before you do the clone, you have to make sure your virtual machine is actually off. So currently it's powered off, but now that we cloned it, let's start it. And wait for it to be ready and before we proceed with our lessons for today. This might take a few minutes. Okay, so Ubuntu is coming off fully. And for those of you who don't know, Ubuntu actually means togetherness in a South African language. That is why you see those three men joining hands. I don't know if you can visualize those three men joining hands together. I will show you when my mouse is able to click in, but you see three men joining hands together in a circle, which means togetherness. So we're learning Linux fundamentals. We have that spirit of togetherness to make sure that we form a community where people are learning the most important skills for today's tech world. So in this channel, you're going to be learning Linux, you will learn containers, you will learn Kubernetes, you will learn AI. This will be your complete platform for learning tech, including DevOps. And all the videos are available for you for free. You just need to dedicate the time and have the willingness to practice. Okay, don't just listen to the videos. Make sure you have your environment ready and then continue to practice. Remember that phrase, practice makes perfect. It's the same analogy here. The more you practice, the better you're going to get. Imagine you're a professional football player. You have to practice. In fact, if you watch the professional sportsmen, they dedicate a huge amount of time to learning or to practicing. It's going to be the same here. If you want to be the best in tech, you have to spend enough time practicing as much as you can. All right, very good. So now, those are the three men I was talking about. This is the head of the first man with the hands joining together. So those are three people forming a circle. Okay, after we clone Ubuntu, now we can log in. Now I have two users. This is my username, and this is the user that I actually install the Ubuntu with. But I'm going to be using my username here. I click on that and I log in. Okay, very good. So if you install Ubuntu, you should see this screen here. Go through these options. You can skip everything for now. Okay, so again, the objective here is to make you familiar or get you to be familiar with Ubuntu. So we're going to explore the desktop environment. After that, we'll start to explore the terminal. Okay, so let's start from here at the top here. If you click on this option, you have a couple of options here. You have the power option here. If you click on that, you have all the options you can use to start or restart your server or your desktop, and you can switch between users. If I have, in this case, I have two users, VBox user and Damien Igbe, so I can use that to switch, okay? And I can log out from here as well. So you can explore that option here. And then you have the speakers here. You can mute your volume or increase the volume if you're listening to music. You have these other options here. We have the balance mode for the power, but now we have power saver like you do on any server. So let me leave it at the default. Now this option here, if I want to quickly go to the restroom and I just want to lock my system, I can click on that. So if I click on that, for example, it just locks me at the system. And when I come back, I can log in again. This is a very good security feature. Don't just leave your laptop running and go somewhere. Then you have the networking options here. We're going to explore networking at some point, so let's leave that for now. So the idea here is that I'm just showing you the features. Feel free to explore them at your own time. After that, we come here where we're going to see our calendar. Today's date, as you can see there, you can begin to add entries in here for your calendar, some notifications and all of that. Okay, then we move here to the left. On the left here, we have a couple of options here. These are all the applications we could be using. These applications here, some of them are here by default. Some of them will pop up only after you use them. So the system will put them here to make it easier for you to access another time. So you have your web browser here, Firefox. You have your email. It's called Thundermail. It's very good email reader. You can configure it to fetch your emails if you want to. We have the file navigator here called the Nautilus. We'll come back to that in a second. You have your application here for playing music. You have Office here that you can use for typing your documents and all of that. You have Office here that you can use for your typing your documents. And then you have the Application Center, which we're going to use an awful lot. Okay, you have your help system here, and you have your trash or your recycle system. Okay, let's explore this a little bit. Let me click on Firefox and see if we can browse from here. Okay, Firefox is here. I can skip all of this as well. Skip. If you're using it for the first time, all these options will come. And now we have our internet and we can browse the internet. Let's just click on that, which is the first thing there. And of course, I can go back and go to Google. Okay, so you see this is not different from Windows or Mac or any other operating system that you're currently using. Let me minimize that. Okay, so let's look at this one here, Nautilus. This is basically where you can navigate and see your documents. So this is again similar to many operating systems. When I log in my home directory, I have my desktop, and currently there's nothing in my desktop, as you can see here. Okay, there's nothing there. And also, you can begin to navigate to download section. Your download, anytime you download a file from the internet, it's going to come here by default. You have your pictures. Pretty much this is the brand new system, so you don't have an awful lot of things stored. If you start storing files, you start seeing them over here. And later on, I'm going to show you how you can use a terminal to come to all these places, and how you can also alternatively do everything from the file navigator or the file browser called here Nautilus. Okay, here we're going to learn to install applications. If I click on that, I can search for any application I want to install. For example, I may want to install Chrome, and I can do a search for Chrome. You see here Chrome OS, the Chrome browser. So I can click on this one here and install it. But again, I'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so you see what all these options are. Yeah, but this is where you're going to do most things. So you click on that, and you have all the applications in your system here. You can also go to the next stage, next page, go back to first page. If I want to search for the terminal, I can either double click it and it comes on here, or I can go back, click here, and then I can search for terminal and then click on it. So you see how to access your applications from here. So this is like your start menu in Windows. So if I click on that, I want to change some settings. So I can click on settings here. And in the settings here, you have a whole lot of configurations, things you can tweak to make your system behave the way you want it to be. The network option is here. We saw that earlier when we click on this. If you want to connect your Bluetooth, all of that. You have your display. You can change the landscape or portrait. Click on that, you see all the options. You have your resolution here. You can change the resolution. A whole lot of stuff here. You have your sound where you can change your volume and all of that. Again, select your microphone that you have in your system. Come here to appearance. You may want to change your desktop. See, currently this is what I have in my desktop, but I have an options here to change them to this one here if I want to. Now that has changed and it's looking actually really beautiful. Select any of these that you prefer, and that will be your new desktop. So let me select this one. Okay, so there's there. You have all these options here, a lot of things you can do. The idea is to come here whenever you're looking to do something and find the option. For example, I can come here to system. Okay, in the system here, this is where the admin can do a few things. I can change the date and time for this server. Already, currently, the date and the time is there. I can change my time zone. If I'm not in Chicago, I can change that there. I can change the time format, on and on. So basically, you can tweak your system to make it look the way you want it to look. Okay, that's the option here. So let me come out of that. So what we do next? Well, basically, these are the things you want to do whenever you are on the desktop environment or side of things. With that, let me go here just to see the things that I have here to show you. Okay, we went through all of that. So now let's explore the terminal. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this and then we go back to Ubuntu to explore the terminal. So anytime you want to do things in Linux or any in Linux or Ubuntu, there are basically two ways you can do things. You can either do from the GUI, the graphical interface, which is where we are at the moment, or you can do from the terminal, which is the shell. Okay, so let's click on that. A shortcut here is to press Ctrl-Alt-T. Ctrl-Alt-T will bring this automatically. But if you don't want to remember those keystrokes, no problem. Just come here as I showed you earlier, search for terminal, and it come here, just click on that and it will come here. While you're here, you can click as many as you want. So currently I'm here. I can create another one, and that would, now I have two. I have this one here and I have this one here. I can click another one, and now I have this, and this. So you don't have to call new ones, just create tabs that you have here, and that will give you new tabs. Okay, so that is your terminal. Now let me repeat. Anything you can do from here, you can do from the graphical interface. This one here is very important because most of the time when you're trying to manage a server, the server is not going to have the GUI or the desktop, because desktop can add additional requirement for system resources. And also maybe it can pose some security threat, because there might be some applications installed on the desktop side of things that you don't want to be on your server. So kind of like as best practice, most people will not run a desktop on their server. But if you're running Linux as your desktop in your laptop, desktop is very important. So it's good to learn both of them. And in fact, this is where we're going to be doing most of the stuff as we continue to learn Linux. But again, I repeat, anything you can do from here, you can do on the GUI. And I'll show you that, how you can combine both of them and explore the features once I'm done exploring the shell or the terminal. Okay, so first thing first, this is your terminal. It can be in different colors, but the default color we see here is like purple. On this, you see the name of the user that logged in is here, which is me. Now, this is the name of the server. This is the name of this VM. Okay, so if I say hostname, you see it's showing me that this server is called Ubuntu. If I name it anything else, it's going to show there. Then it has a colon, then it has a tilde, which is like a squiggly sign, and that user is showing that this is the home page of the user. This user here, Damien Igbe. That's squiggly, that's what it means. So to confirm, if you do pwd, that is what you're going to see, home Damien Igbe. Every user has a home directory in Linux environment. Okay, and this $sign here shows you that currently I'm not the admin user. If I want to become the admin user, I need to use a sudo command. I can say sudo su minus, and if this user Damien Igbe is in sudo group, it's going to let me become root. So when I did that, you see how it changed. Now the username has changed to root, no longer Damien Igbe. And we still have the name of the server. We still have the @ sign here, of course. We still have the colon. We still have the squiggly sign. But now if I do pwd, it's showing something different from this, because now I'm root and this is the home of root. Then notice this, it has a pound sign instead of $sign. Pound sign here shows me that I'm now the root, and I have to be careful whatever I do, because the root user has all the powers to do and undo. So when you're here on the root shell, you have to be very careful what you do, because if you don't, you can easily screw things up. You can easily ruin something on the Linux file system. Okay, so that is how to switch between different users on this environment here. Okay, but one thing I want to talk about here is there's something called the terminal and there's something called the shell. Now, what's the difference? Sometimes people use them interchangeably, but it's good to understand the differences between a terminal and a shell. So basically, what you see me here clicking on, this is what we call the terminal. But within this terminal, there is an application running called the shell. That shell is basically the one interpreting every command I'm typing, like ls, like pwd, whatever. It's the one interpreting between me and the Linux kernel. Okay, so there are different shells you can use in the Linux environment. If you want to see the current shell, just do echo and type this environmental variable. It says I'm using bin bash. Bash means born again shell. It's a default shell that comes with Linux. Okay, it's a very good shell, but just understand born again shell is just one shell. Cat etc shell. Okay, if you do that, if you do that, you can see all the available shells on the system. This is the one we're dealing with here, the bash, but you can also switch to this. Now this one is not very user friendly, but is the one that came before the bash. Okay, so let me come here and change. I can do ch change shell -s, and I can say bin shell. Okay, and that would have changed my shell. If I log out and log back in, that would give me the bin shell, which is the original shell that came with Linux. Okay, but I actually don't want to use it. I'm only showing you this. You really don't have to tamper with changing your shell because the bash is good enough. I'm only giving you this for information purposes. Okay, so far, all I'm saying is that within the terminal, there's a program running called a Linux shell. And these are the different Linux shells that are on this system. Again, stick to bash. Bash is very good. You see there are a couple of differences, things you can do here in bash. For example, you can do what we call command completion, which you may not be able to do in some other shells. Okay, and command completion can be very helpful. For example, if I try to type like, let's say, password, I just type PA, and if I press my tab key, it will bring all the words that start with PA, and I can see PASS is right here. I can add S, press tab, and it's kind of filtering based on anything that starts with PAS. And if I add another S and I tap, now this is the only thing that starts with PASS and then WD. So when I type it again, it just came up. So command completion can be very helpful, and I will show you some of those features later on as well. Okay, so basically we have a shell. Now if you want, you can use this analogy. It's like the terminal is like a TV, like you have your TV which you need to buy from a shop, and within your TV you can watch different channels. Okay, those different channels are like the shell that you have here, and again the default channel is going to be the bash, BASH, on Linux environment. So I can use them the same. I can say give me a shell or give me a terminal, but in essence or in reality, there's a slight difference between them, because within this terminal, I can use any shell that I want. And if I switch to another shell, the behavior of how the terminal behavior will be different. For example, everything I see here, the way it's been organized here, is just the way bash organizes things. If I switch to just the shell, you may not see all these options here, and I may lose some of the capabilities like command completion, as I just explained. Okay, so while you're here, you can, like I said, do anything that you're capable of doing from here. Okay, so let's look at some of the things we can do. And for that, I'm going to go back here just to make sure that I'm following the guide. Okay, so we went through all of that. We understand there's a Linux shell, and it basically acts as a translator between you and the OS kernel, which I already explained, and then you can execute all these commands within the shell. When you write your program, your bash scripting, which we're going to do later on, you can also write your program in a bash shell. So you can see some differences here between a terminal and a shell. It may go a little bit deeper than what I said, but you can go through them to understand more about the differences. All right, and also how you can change your shell and how you can see which shell you are at the moment. If you change your shell, remember to log out and log back in. But again, I would advise you for now, don't play with the shells, just understand the concept. Okay, and so these are some of the most common shells you're going to see. The bash, which is the default. Then you have the Z shell, the Con shell. We also have the C shell that you can use. Okay, again, all for information purposes. So when you are inside your shell, like I said, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. These are commands you can type. We're going to learn these commands as we proceed in this course. Like you can type commands like pwd, which you saw me do. You can type command like ls, which is going to list files. You can create a directory and you can change a directory into that terminal, into that directory. You can do clear, which is going to clear the screen, and you can do echo, which will basically print something for you. Okay, so again, let's go and practice some of those. So I'm here. I'm going to exit my root shell. To exit from root shell back into your normal shell, just type exit. So I'm back now to my normal shell, and if I want to clear screen, I just type clear. And then I can do ls, and that will show me all the files here. I can do ls-al, that will arrange the files neatly. I can do ls-a, and that will also show them this way. But ls-al is the most friendly is the most friendly way to use a list. Okay. As we proceed, we'll learn how to make directories, make directory project. Now if I do ls, project will show, because make dir just basically create a folder. Okay, Windows call them folder, but it's basically a directory. So I can now see the project and I'm there. Okay, well, later on we're going to learn the basic Linux commands. Now it's mostly just walking you through both the Linux desktop and the Linux shell. Okay, so with that, let's go back. I'm now going to try to compare using the terminal and the desktop, trying to do the same thing while we're there, while we're here. But before I do that, I'm going to show you certain things that can help you become productive when you're here. Okay, so for those, I already mentioned command completion. So command completion is just the ability of the Linux shell to help you complete commands by pressing the tab key. Remember the tab key on your keyboard. So again, I can use another example. If I want to type a command like history, which is a command to view your history, I already type HIST. I can press the tab key and it completes it for me. Now, it's because I already typed enough to let the system know that there is nothing else in the system that starts with HIST, and they was able to complete history. If I started from H, I can see do tab, that'll bring a whole lot of stuff that starts with H. Then if I type I, it's going to filter based on the things that starts with HI. And now if I put S, there's only history that starts with HIS, so it's going to bring it for me. And I can just enter. Okay, now I see my history that I have over here. Take note of that. It can be very helpful to use the command completion. Okay, also learn you have to use your up arrow keys, down arrow keys. What this will do is show you the commands you have been typing, which are pretty much listed here in the history. So basically anything you're typing, Linux is going to put them in what they call the history. So I can do up arrow, all the commands I typed before to be bringing them up for me. And if I want to make use or repeat using one of the commands, I can just use it. Like I don't have to type this again, I just use ls-al, and that is showing me what I have here in that directory. So up arrow to move up, down arrow we move down when there are other options for it. Okay, so take note of that. That will make you productive as well. Another thing is this. Let me type history. I'm going to type a very long word. Okay, in fact, let me write a sentence. History is in the making. If I do that, see where my cursor is? My cursor is at the end of the line. If I want to go straight to the end of the line, I press Ctrl A. Okay, if I want to go to the end where I was, which is making, I press Ctrl E. So Ctrl A, Ctrl E, I can be moving between those sentences. That is better than doing the back arrow, but I'm currently doing the back arrow. It's taking me step by step onto the first. And if I want to go to the end, it's also faster than doing the the forward arrow key. I'm currently pressing the forward arrow key and it will take me there. If I just press Ctrl A, that will take me there quickly. If I press Ctrl E, that will take me there quickly as well. So things like this can make you very productive when you're on the shell. All right, another thing is this. I just showed you the history command. So if I type history, it brings up all the commands I've been typing. Now, if I want to execute this second line here called clear, I can just type that exclamation mark and 2, number 2, because 2 is this number here. And it will repeat clear. So it's clear the screen. If I type history again, and I want to do number 3 hostname, I just do exclamation 3. Again, beautiful. So you can do things like that. Alternatively, to bring in previous comments, you can also do Ctrl R. When I do Ctrl R, see what it says, reverse I search. So if I want to use the name, if I want to use the command hostname, I just start typing H. Okay, it found it. So I just type enter and then it shows me the hostname. I can also do Ctrl R and I want to go to make directory. So which is number 11 here. Okay. So I can type M. It hasn't found it. Just keep typing M. You see it's found it now. So now I can do make directory project. But if I repeat that, it's going to give error because there's already a command called, there's already a directory called project1. So I just press my key and I go to the end and I can press 1 and that gives me that. To make this very fast, I can do Ctrl R and I can type MK. Okay, then I press my tab key. If I'm searching for more, I press my tab key. Then if there are more, I can keep pressing that. But now I can press the forward key, forward arrow key, and it brings me to the beginning. Now I press Ctrl E to take me to the end, and I just change that now, make dir project 2. So you see how you can use all these keystrokes to make you very productive. So I have a few other ones to show you, or maybe I've gone through all of them, but let me go so we can see what else I want to show. Okay, it's your tab key, retrieve, arrow keys, Ctrl A, Ctrl E. All right, let's do this one. This one is very important for newbies, the letter Q. All right, so I can call a program now. Let me call like, let me say etc, which is a file, etc, I don't know which application is here to call. Okay, let me go there to see which file I can call, ls etc. So let me just try one file. I'll just say ls etc pam.conf. Okay, so now I use this program called less and see the cursor is at the end of the line. The cursor is currently here. So I cannot type any command at the moment because the shell is engaged. So I cannot do nothing. I see newbies, whenever they're here, they are trying to type something, which is not going to work. So to exit here, just press letter Q. And this works in almost every time you use an application that is paginating and is stopping for you, okay? So if you don't come across this problem, you probably won't know what I'm talking about, but remember letter Q because it's going to help you a lot, okay? Alternatively, sometimes you can press Ctrl C, okay? In this case, Ctrl C is not doing it. Ctrl C or Q does it. So Q exit and took me back to where I needed to be, which is the shell. Okay, so take note of that. It can be very important. So that's what I'm trying to say here. All right, so let's go into the final section of this video. Here I'm going to show you how to use both the Nautilus or the GUI and also the terminal, how to combine them. So these are the commands I'm going to show you. One of them is going to be make dir Torch, I'll come back here to look at them. So let's look at makedir. All right, so with makedir, if I want to do that from the GUI, I just come here to my files, and depending on where I want to create a file, if I want to create it inside my home directory, I can just right click here and I said new folder, and I can type here project 5. Look at it there. If you follow through, remember we created a lot of directories earlier, and I have the project. Okay, now I'm trying to look into I created this project here called project 5, and it's inside the home directory. So let's go back to the home directory on the terminal here, and I'm going to go back cd ... to go back to where I was. And if I do ls minus al, you see that project 5 is here, which I just created, and the initial one project is here. So basically what I'm trying to show is that I can either create it here, project, make directory project 6, or I can create it from here. Now project 6 is here because I created it from there. All right, and I hope you understand that you can do makedir from here, from the terminal, or you can just right click here and create folder. In that sense, you can see how easy it is to do things from the GUI, but from the terminal, you need to remember the commands. Otherwise, it's not difficult as well. So cd is basically like double clicking, and I'm here inside this directory. From here, I can say cd project, and I'm there as well. ls minus al. Do you see project 1, project 2? And if you come here, project 1, project 2. So that is how you can do cd from there. Now pwd, it shows me where I am. It says I'm in my home, which is my username, in this case Damien Ibe, and project. Here, if I do pwd, it shows me too that I'm in my home and project. Okay, which is what it is here, home project. All right, so I hope you're getting the feel for this. Anything you can do from the shell, you can also do from the terminal. All right, so let's look at the other commands I wanted to show you. We already did this, we did this, we did this, and let's do this, Torch and Nano. Let's do Torch. Okay, so for Torch is like creating a file, and a program I can use to create that is called Nano. So let's see if Nano is installed. How do I search for that? Like what I showed you earlier, go here and search for Nano. Okay, Nano is not installed. If I click on that, it's gonna say there's no thing called Nano. So let's install it. To install it, I can come here. This is my App Center, and I can search for Nano and click on that, and it said install. I just say install. I need to be admin or root, so I put my password, enter, and it's going to install Nano for me. Okay, so let's wait for it to be installed. Okay, Nano is installed. So if I go back, let's type Nano. All right, there you go. So Nano has now come up, and I can create a file with whatever name I want. So I can type, this is learning Linux. And at the bottom here, you have all the options to save your file. So Control O is to save. Now we need to give it a file name. I'm going to call it file 1 and enter. I want to exit, Control X, that takes me out. So here I can use Nano to create a file because I have the application here running, but also here I call it from the shell, right? You can also call it from here. Earlier when we type on it, I think it's not registered yet, but it should come up here, okay? It should come up here so you can find it later on. All right, so that is how you can create a file from the shell and from the GUI. Let me see what else I want to show you here. the point I'm trying to make here is that, again, you can do anything either from the shell or from the GUI. Okay, let's call Firefox. Firefox here. If Firefox is installed, I can call it from here, Firefox, and that will bring up the browser, or I can just click on it here. Here, I don't have to remember the name, I just see it here, or I go here and I search for it. Firefox. All right, just double click it and that will come up. But here, I can do the same thing, I just need to remember the name. All right, so let me do one thing again. If I want to install an application like Chromium, I can go here, search for Chromium. It's not installed, so if it's not installed, go to application here, search for Chromium, and you see Chromium. This is the Chrome browser, and just install it. Okay. At the same time, I can also do the same thing from the shell. I can go here and do sudo apt install Chromium browser. Okay, -y. Again, here you need to remember to use sudo apt install name of the application, but from the application center, I just look for the name and then I install it, and now I can open it. Okay, so let's do that quickly. You see, there you go, that's Chrome. Chrome is now installed and it's here. I can call it up. Okay, so this is to give you again a good feel for using both your GUI and your terminal. For newbies, GUI is intuitive, it's easy to use, but if you are you cannot escape learning the shell, especially if you're planning to be a Linux sysadmin. Using the shell is important, again, because most servers don't have the GUI. On your desktop, if you want to switch to using Linux, anything you do in Windows, you can do it here. Anything you do in Mac, you can do it here. So the option is to either replace your operating system with Linux, or do as I'm doing here, have your Mac or your Windows install VirtualBox. Inside your VirtualBox, create a VM, install your Linux, and you can use it for learning. But by all means, make sure you have a Linux environment where you can play and learn Linux. Very good. I hope that video was informative and helpful. I hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to learn more about DevOps and cloud and Linux and AI and what have you. Okay, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.